Peace. Good evening. I'd like to welcome you back to another edition of the Foul Playland. As always, I'm your Foul Player. I hope you guys had a wonderful weekend. Hope you guys had a wonderful day today. Fucking pouring out here in New York for a small time, or in Jersey. And it's hurricaning in fucking Puerto Rico, which sucks. My peoples are okay, thankfully. But prayers up for the people of Puerto Rico. Maybe I'll touch on that later on, but I wanted to get to other matters or lighter topics for the evening. Being that I want to start covering things more regularly, and being that I'm not going to talk boxing every night fucking regularly, that's for sure. I do want to try to come on all the time, but I'm not going to come on all the time like to talk boxing. I want to come on and talk fucking world shit more than anything. My bad, bro. I fucked up here. I'm sorry, peoples. I think there's a problem with my camera. Fucking it's giving some indication like fucking yeah, I think there's something wrong with my fucking computer. It's saying that I can't use the camera fucking unless I restart the computer. So I'm gonna have to. You can't see my mug today. Let me just make sure that the shit is working on my regular TV. There we go. We Gucci. Anyways, damn, will I be able to share the fucking screen, bro? Like, otherwise, I'll restart this shit, man. It's just whack. But yeah. Let me see if I could share the screen, because otherwise, I'm gonna fucking put the kibosh on this. Otherwise, I'm gonna put the kibosh on this show and fucking Let me see if I share screen. All right, bitch. There we go. I just want to make sure, guys. I gotta do some fucking policing of the show prior to fucking commencing. Let me make sure you guys can see that on the screen. I'm gonna check on my TV. 1 second, guys. Yeah, I mean, it is working on the screen, so fuck it. I'll just push on. The Philly drag queen Valencia Prime of 25 collapses and dies while on stage. Of course, that is a story I'm going to get into later on. But let me stop my share screen. Yeah, I'm going to touch on that later on. That's one of the stories I want to touch on later on. I do want to touch on stories that I find interesting and touch on them every day. You know what I'm saying? Like shit that happens around the world, shit that happens in the entertainment world that I may give a shit about. I'm not going to talk about many celebrities and stuff like that because there's a lot of celebrities nowadays that I don't even know about. Musicians, I don't know any musicians for the most part that are coming out nowadays. Rappers, I only know them like honestly when they perish. Actresses and movies and shit like that. I don't really watch movies and shit. Like fucking I don't like unless my son loves going to the theater and unless he drags me to, like I don't watch movies that much. I do watch TV shows. I love documentaries and all that shit. I actually want to talk about a documentary I watched recently too. I'm gonna do a little bit more homework and more digging before I make that one. But one thing I do know, without doing homework or digging, is the Game of Thrones, the World of Ice and Fire, of the song, or the World of a Song of Ice and Fire. I read pretty much every book related to Game of Thrones, with the exception of this recent book, but which is House of the Dragon. I think I didn't even know that book came out. To be frank, I didn't know of the book's existence like that. I mean, because this show, like, with a lot of things that have to do with Game of Thrones or with the books, there's like massive delays. Like, so for instance, like the last book from Game of Thrones, that shit came out when I still lived in Brooklyn, and that shit came out when the first season came out, which was God knows when, probably like 2012. Um, the But once the first season of the show came out, I loved that show. I fucking thought Daenerys was hot. I thought it was intriguing. I love medieval shit. So I mean, it checked all the boxes for me. And I'm not one of those people, like, when I see something that I don't like on a show, i.e., like politicization, like, or like it doesn't, like, I don't find that stuff like enjoyable, if you will, but I don't like, fuck this, I'm not gonna watch the show. My son's like that. Like, for instance, my son hates when they try to flip the script on comics and all this shit, because he loves comic books, and fucking he's more black pilled in that sense. Like, and by black pilled I mean, like, my son is somebody, like, if he don't like it at all, he won't give it a try, like, one bit. Like, he's more of a standoffish in that sense. I'm not, though, and the thing is too, I'm coming from the perspective of somebody, like I said, the first season of the show, I loved it, and then since all the books were out, in relation to A Song of Ice and Fire, or what you would call Game of Thrones, all those books were out right when the show season 1 finished, or right when season 1 came out. So right when I finished season 1, I started reading the books from number 1 to, I think it was number 5. There's 5 books, I think. The last being who the fuck knows? I can't really recall off the top of my head. But I did read all the books. I read them several times. Like, whenever I go on vacation, the last time I read it was probably I think it was when I went to vacation on Chincoteague Island. I mean, I haven't read it for, like, I want to say, like, 5 years. Let's say 4 or 5 years that where I haven't read the whole series over again. But I had probably read the whole series front to back 10 times, and I'm not bullshitting on that. And I wish I could show my fucking camera, because I have a first edition of a re-release of the first book. But anyhow, so I don't like. I mean, I'm pretty. Like, I'm learning when it comes to the show, when it comes to the books and all that stuff. I read a World of Ice and Fire, which is like a complimentary book that came out with it. The Hedge Knight, I read that. Fucking but, and this is not like my kind of party. Like, it's not like I fucking go and look for books like that. But I was so enthralled by that first season that I fucking I would take the train to work at that time too. And that way I don't have to talk to people. I would fucking read the books. Or that way I don't have to give up my seat to a lady. Fucking I could have an excuse by having my face in the book. I give my seat up to pregnant ladies. If it's other ladies and you're not old, you're asked out. Standing. Get up there and stand. But on the train, at least. But I did start watching this show. My lady didn't really want to watch it, because, like, a lot of people say that the show Game of Thrones ended like whack. I could kind of agree with that sentiment. It felt like it was really rushed at the end. And it's not like I'm the only person that says that it was rushed or that they didn't like the ending. I think a lot of people felt that way. But regardless, like, I was gonna watch this new show called damn, I don't even fucking remember the fucking show's name. The House of the Dragon. I was gonna watch the House of the Dragon no matter what. Again, I like medieval shit, like fucking and I knew it was gonna be done well, like, as far as cinematically. So I was signed up, and my shorty, I mean, like, my wife, she didn't like Game of Thrones that much, especially how it ended, but she actually likes this show a lot. I mean, it's like scandalous, more like there's more like lady type beef. You know what I'm saying? It's not like brawling and shit like that. It's more like fucking political intrigue, if kind of. I mean, there was political intrigue in the Game of Thrones, and there's even more in this show. But it does feel like more like intense in that sense, like as far as the political intrigue, whatever. So my wife likes this show like more than the other show. But one thing that I noticed with this show, in relation to the bros, let me try my fucking camera again, bro, because that's. Damn, I wonder what the fuck device it says that I have like working that's using my camera. They're full of shit. But anyhow, like in the not this last week's episode and not the one before that, but in the week before that, they have a house or a family in the show that was in the books originally. It wasn't in the books, but they will mention them in the books because they were mentioned in the books as cousins to the main family in the book, which is the Targaryen family. The Targaryen family in the book are not even from the same continent as where the book takes place. They're from an entirely different continent. I don't know how the people looked in that continent because I don't think that was discussed in the book. I'm not gonna front. But the Targaryens, they're all known to be like white, and fucking silver hair, like in the shows. I mean, in the books. When they would refer to this other house, which was like a cousin house to the Targaryens in the books, they would always mention them as having like the same characteristics as the Targaryens. Some people were trifled that, and that house was called the Velaryon house, the cousin house to the Targaryens. Now, when the show started, they did show House Velaryon. I mean, in the lead up to the show, they actually showed some of the people that were going to be on the cast. And some people were surprised to find that some of the Velaryon house, the cousin house to the Targaryens, were played by black people. I didn't think it was an issue because, I mean, I didn't see that as a big issue script-wise because the continent where both the Targaryens and the Velaryons are from is no longer in existence. It got fucked up. Like a volcano blew it up or some shit. I don't know. So they're no longer there. So, I mean, you could say that the two living houses or families of that continent, one is black and one is white. I mean, that's not an easy thing to finagle. But me being suspicious of entertainment, and I'm always sniffing things out like a beagle. I hope you could hear it. That was my sniffing sound. But me being suspicious, like with HBO shows too, HBO is always making brothers do some gay stuff on the show, if you will, to put it lightly. I didn't see that coming, honestly, because like I kind of knew the general gist of like how this story would have taken place, because even though I didn't read the book of this story, they reference it in the other books, like the story that's taking place now in this HBO show. So I mean, like the whole making the character a brother or the whole family, like no problem. But in the episode that happened not yesterday or the day before, but the day before that, like 2 episodes ago or 3 episodes ago, the king, who's a Targaryen, is looking for a wife. So they propose the king to marry his cousin house, the Velaryon house, one of their little daughters. I think the daughter in the show is 11 years old. So on the surface, I mean, again, they got a brother doing something fucked up yet again in that sense. Like I that was my immediate response. Not that I was up in arms about it or making videos about it, because I wasn't making videos up until a couple of days ago. Again, but my radar's on as far as with HBO shows anyway. I mean, fucking Omar in The Wire, the brothers in the show Oz. That's why I had to stop watching that shit. Who else? The show Lovecraft Country. Like, I mean, they fucking dedicated whole episodes and went left, like as far as the flow of the show was going, and they made like one whole episode into like a Zest'Fest. So I know what it is with HBO, and it's not just that they do stuff of having men doing stuff with men, if you will, but they usually have the brothers doing that shit. And it's it's crappy. I mean, like, it's not that it's crappy. I mean, I like, because I mean, some moron is gonna come around and be like, "Well, brother, brother, you ain't gonna be talking. Oh, it shouldn't concern you." Like, shut the fuck up, bro. It shouldn't concern. My opinion shouldn't. You, bitch. Like, fucking So like, but I can't stand especially my peeps when we stick our heads in the sand. Like, as far as discourse goes, well, fuck, how it is. Like, no, motherfucker. Like, I know, I do know how it is. I don't like, if I don't like things, then I try to fucking then I at least fucking prick my ears up. The fuck, like, I'm not supposed to notice. But anyhow, that shit has been happening on like every show basically. I mean, I used to keep a list, like, at my job. No bullshit. Like, I mean, like, fucking and I have witnesses to this. This list I would keep, like, I literally would keep a piece of paper in one of my shirt pockets, and I would remember scenes of stuff like this, where they made brothers play themselves in a zesty fashion like this. And the list was like 3 pages front to back. I mean, it wasn't just names; it was like the names and times that they played themselves. And it was not just a list of zesty stuff; it was a list of brothers that got killed in a movie or a show, if you will. Brothers that played a drug addict, a handicapped person, or a mentally retarded person, like the movie Radio and Cuba Gooding Jr., like or a handicapped person, like Snoop Dogg in the movie Training Day. What was my other example? It was a drug addict. I mean, you fucking pick one drug addict in a movie that was a brother. Chris Rock in fucking New Jack City. But and again, so I always had these little lists that I would keep. And I mean, in my mind, I wanted to do a fucking a little documentary about this shit. Like, if I ever had the capability, I don't. But you're seeing it here with this show. I mean, like, and the thing is too, like, you hear people bitching lately, especially lately, because Game of Thrones had a little bit of this, as far as inserting brothers into the script. That no beef with it, because it fit. I know the story of Game of Thrones and A Song of Ice and Fire, and the story that's kind of playing out now. And I know for sure that script wise, for the purposes of the flow of the story, that they could have inserted or made that family, the Valerian family, into a black family. I mean, it would have fit. More people are bitching now, like, in terms of, like, or other people are bitching about another medieval show that I'm trying to fucking watch. Kind of boring. It's like the Lord of the Rings, like, prequel or some shit that's on Amazon Prime. I mean, it's a well done show as far as cinematically. It looks very pleasurable to the eye. The show is fucking dragging ass though, and some people were riffing about the insertion of brothers in that show. I mean, it wasn't the biggest deal. I mean, they're giving like an ancillary character who's a sister, like, kind of like a big role, but I don't see the big deal with that, because that's a fantasy realm. So motherfuckers could look however the fuck they want. And same thing with Game of Thrones. And honestly, the input of brothers into these shows, do whatever the fuck you want, but just don't have them doing no zest shit off the rip. And I made my commercial in the past regarding the AIDS commercials and how they got brothers looking, because every fucking AIDS medicine commercial has a brother in it. It either has a brother or some Latin cat in it. It's not acceptable in either end, in my mind. I mean, if not, I mean, or it's I'll put it like this: whether it's not acceptable by me or not is not even a factor. What's more of a factor is that the people who made these commercials take place, like producers or fucking directors or whatever the fuck have you, somebody, like, because I don't want nobody to come after the fact and say, "Oh no, it's actually a boom person," or fucking no, it's an editing script. This guy like fucking that decides who goes on the show. Like, all right, expert. Like, well, I'm saying that somebody who probably wasn't a brother that directs or fucking finances or produces these commercials, shows don't look like no fucking brothers at all. They're white dudes. So I mean, they're making that choice. That's what peeves me. Like they're making that choice to make Laenor Targaryen the character in this show. Let me do my little screen share thing. Um, but they're the ones that make that conscious decision and say, all right, like why don't we make this guy into a black dude? And if I were a fly in the room, I would say no problem. But when you make the black dude fucking in that show Zesty, then I got a problem. You know what I'm saying? Like fucking I mean I can't really show the show like fucking And the thing is too that a lot of the internet scrub stuff, because look, I put fucking in my search Laenor Velaryon, which is the name of that character, gay. And more pictures are popping up. And trust me when I tell you guys that there are algorithms that are fucking eating away at the internet, and that well I'll put it like this. When I googled this earlier, Laenor Velaryon gay, there were a ton of images of the scene in which he was being gay, like with this fellow right here in this show, like this shot. It wasn't this scene though, it was another scene. He was like in the grass, like getting ready to fucking bone the dude, seemingly. It's this scene right here, look, boom. So just so you guys don't think I'm bullshitting, like fucking and you know, let me make sure I'm not sharing the screen any longer. And again, I mean, it's not a problem with men who enjoy the company of men. I mean, like fucking, that's your problem. And more broads for me. I'm not single, but or more broads for my son. You know, I have a problem with the conscious decision by that unknown person who's not a brother. Let's get this straight. Not a brother who's deciding on making these brothers who are enjoying the company of other men on TV shows. I have a problem with that guy, with the guy who's deciding on it, who again is not a fucking brother. And for anybody who wants to contend this, show me one fucking studio that's not Tyler Perry's, because Tyler Perry is a fucking serial cross dresser. I mean, so it's a terrible example of what I'm trying to portray here. And fuck Tyler Perry too. I've never watched a Tyler Perry movie. I never watched any of those crappy ass shows that go on God knows what network. I think Tyler Perry got a fucking network, if I remember correctly. I think I saw news of that. But I never watched the Tyler Perry everything. I remember Tyler Perry being in fucking Beacon Theater in New York City, which is not a big theater, selling shows for his crappy ass cross-dressing plays. And of course, the powers that be and whoever, Hollywood, whoever the fuck have you, make sure that Tyler Perry is now scratching on a billion right now. If he hasn't even made a billion, owns the biggest independent studio in the whole country. How's that happen? By fucking Madea movies? Yeah, sure. That happens by financing, and the financing is not done by fucking motherfuckers that look like Tyler Perry or you, brother. But and it's, I mean, if it doesn't sound like it's coming from a place of I don't like to I mean, sometimes I think my delivery is mistaken, but I look at my delivery as in I only have a you're only gonna listen to me right now, so let me make sure that you remember what the fuck I'm telling you. But there's no I like to me all that stuff, it's planned out. It's definitely planned out. From deciding on which brothers, quote unquote, make it into fucking TV shows, and to making these brothers ultimately do some shit where they're playing themselves in these roles. either by playing a man who loves men. My examples from before, like playing somebody who's mentally handicapped, drug addict, or mentally handicapped, drug addict, or whatever the fuck other example I gave, and somebody dying on screen, i.e., Training Day, like in which um, Snoop Dogg played the guy in the wheelchair, yes, but Denzel Washington also got shot in the ass in that movie, just like Martin got shot in the ass in Bad Boys 2. And he had dudes standing around while he was bent over in Martin, this is, in the movie Bad Boys 2. While he was crouched over with a bullet in his ass, a bunch of dudes were behind him looking at his ass and talking about the gunshot wound and all this stuff. So it's an emasculation act in my eyes. And it's an object going into the ass of these two brothers, at least in this film. In these films, Training Day with Denzel Washington and Bad Boys 2 with Martin Lawrence. Both dudes getting shot in the ass. Both dudes make statements that they got shot in the ass. And at least for a few seconds in both movies, that becomes the major factor in those scenes. You know what I'm saying? Denzel Washington also was killed brutally in that movie, Training Day. And I always found it frustrating. I thought there was a lot of roles that Denzel Washington could have won an award for before that. Glory, forgot the movie where he's a jazz artist. Pretty good movie too. Malcolm X, God damn it. But no, I mean they waited till Training Day, and I think they waited with a reason or with a purpose. But I'm hoping I'm not forgetting. And the thing is too, with this whole Game of Thrones thing, like with the House Valerian, I'm gonna see if I pull up and I'm gonna do a screen share of because they actually had the thing that I just told you guys in regarding the guy trying to sell his his underage daughter off to this old white guy in the show. And again, I never seen and this is why, to me, they make brothers in a sense historically play themselves too. And I'll screen share this here. I'm gonna see if I can find both images within the same window. But the scene that I was telling you guys where the guy's trying to pawn off his daughter, this is not the guy in question, but this is the guy's daughter within the show. I don't know what her name is in the show. Here we go. I put Valerian daughter in my search. And this is the scene right here in question. Where the guy tries to pawn his daughter off to be married by this guy here, who's the head Targaryen, the king, if you will. This is the daughter of the House Valerian, this young sister here. In this scene, her father drops her off to chop it up with this guy in hopes that she and him could get married. Now, I don't watch much TV, but I've never seen a show, and I mean, like, you guys could probably understand just from this video that I'm looking for these things actively, but I never seen a show in which or movie in which a father tried to pawn his daughter off to an older guy. You know what I'm saying? And she's actually discussing this young actress is discussing with this guy that she wouldn't have to sleep with him until she's 14. So she's 11 now. She don't have to sleep with him, according to her, and according to what her parents told her. She don't have to sleep with this guy who's in his 50s till she's 14. And she's discussing this now at whatever the fuck age she is. How the fuck do I stop this? Yeah, there we go. So and to me that was unprecedented. I never seen that in a show ever, ever. But you know, when it comes to making history, cinematic history on a show, I mean, it seems like I'm seeing a lot of times where they're pushing the brothers out to make this shit history in shows, like these first ever kind of scenes. You know what I'm saying? Like, and honestly, too, I mean, like, I haven't watched a lot of TV recently, but the show Lovecraft Country, like, they had a scene with the guy from The Wire, Omar, the guy who played Omar from The Wire, um, playing another gay role in fucking in the show Lovecraft Country, and he actually goes to like a fucking cross-dressing party, and this is like taking place in the 50s, like a cross-dressing party, and it's just straight brothers and shit in the 50s. Like, you kidding me? Like, where the fuck is where'd that happen? Like, where'd that happen in the 50s? And this is not even like in New York. This is like in some other like southern state where I think it's Chicago, actually. I like where Lovecraft Country's based out of. Like, the central characters are based out of Chicago. But it's some bullshit. And like, the thing is, like, I mean, if you're not trifled by it, good for you. Good for you. Like, asshole, like, fucking, and it's not that you're better than me or worse than me, or it's not that I'm saying that I am a better man or that I have fucking that I'm noble for getting trifled by these things, but it's a bad look. I mean, you're talking about a people in brothers. I mean, it's like fucking all right. You want to say I'm not a brother, but I was around a lot of brothers, like fucking where I live, my fucking building, my fucking neighborhood, my fucking school. When I went to college, and it's not like I go fucking and try to be some ancillary character. Like, no, motherfucker. Like, I don't like act like I gotta shrink in a room like fucking like where and play the cut and make my observations. No, I'm usually fucking the one cracking jokes or fucking whatever the hell have you. You know what I'm saying? Like, but what I want to say is that if you would have told brothers 10 years ago, if there was a council of brothers, COB, 10 years ago, that listen, we're gonna make some headway into more shows, if you will, more commercials, if you will, but a lot of times when they do represent you on these commercials and shows, you'll be doing some sus stuff. I don't think a lot of brothers would have signed up for that in 2010, and I don't think a lot of brothers would have signed up for that in mass in 2022. So, I mean, somebody who wants to stick their head in the sand, I mean, I think that it would be the kind of person that sticks his head in the sand most of the time anyway. And why should they factor in, or why should I factor that opinion, if you will? As far as world news, there wasn't much today. I mean, no, they're bullshit. There was a little bit of world news today. I mean, I don't got the article pulled up, but I know there was some beef in Kazakhstan and Kyrgyzstan or Turkestan. I know Kazakhstan for sure was one of the countries. I don't know if it was Turkestan or Kurdistan. I think it was Turkestan. But there was a little bit of a beef between the two countries yesterday. I mean, yeah, I think it was last night. I mean, something to keep your eye on. There's been beef in other countries too. Recently, I think Azerbaijan, if I remember the country correctly, got into a little bit of beef and was actually asking Russia for help. And this is like not a country nowhere near like Russia. So I mean, like, that's crazy shit, because a lot of countries may start beefing. I mean, a big country like Russia, I mean, they're in an active war as we speak. I mean, Russia doesn't say it's a war, but it's an active war like that they're conducting in Ukraine currently. I mean, if Russia then lends a hand to some other country, like fucking because they're beefing with their neighbor, fucking who knows? Like, I mean, like, it could be countries joining after other countries, picking sides. And I mean, it's pretty much what happened in World War One. I mean, right after fucking Ferdinand got bucked, everybody had to play their side. You know what I'm saying? Like, fucking so I mean, it's not like that. I'm like fucking ultra worried when these things pop off. I don't think we're all gonna die, and I'm not a black pillist in that sense. But it's just something to keep your eye on, and I kind of like that shit anyway, as far as world news goes, geopolitics, if you will. Let me go to my. I didn't read the drag queen story that I'm about to read to you now, the one that I pulled up in the my first screen share when I was testing. But so I'll read the article along with you guys. But it's a article about this young fine fella here, Philly drag queen Valencia Prime. Actually, take fine out that fella. But and it goes a Philadelphia drag queen collapsed on stage mid-performance and died, prompting an outpouring of support for her family. I think we should see a lot less drag queen performances, frankly, especially the ones in front of kids. But let me continue. Valencia Prime was only 25. Why don't you show Valencia Prime's real name? Fucking Lance fucking Higgins or some shit. Valencia Prime was only 25, but already a fixture on the Philly drag scene. When she collapsed on stage, she in quotes, on stage September 12th, according to local reports. Prime identified as a trans person and billed herself, or itself, as Philadelphia's plus-size dancing diva. Prime was performing at Taboo nightclub in Center City while hosting its own live showcase, Primetime. Primetime, when tragedy struck. Fuck out of here. We mourn the loss of a very bright, whatever. The Philadelphia medical examiner listed Prime causes death as heart disease. Get it? Heart disease. Something you're seeing a lot of. Like they actually have it here in New York. I mean, it made news elsewhere too. But we're actually getting for this big hospital that's here in New York Presbyterian Hospital. They're actually showing commercials of myocarditis and kids, like a little kid. Actually, let me see if I show that. But a little kid, a little girl who's discussing her having myocarditis. Now, when in the fuck did you guys ever hear a kid with myocarditis ever? Because I haven't. But you're starting to hear a lot of people who's are dying of heart disease, and I think myocarditis is also a heart disease. Where I think I don't know if it's enlarging of the heart or fucking whatever. But a lot of people, if you Google died suddenly every day on Google for that day, I mean you'll be surprised. Names always pop up. It's not celebrities necessarily all the time, even though a lot of celebrities died all of a sudden this past year or two. But if you put died suddenly in your Google search every day, I mean you'll see a lot of people that are young. And I mean Mr. Prime here is a young person, even though that's a very punchable face and fucking but Mr. Prime was a young person, and at 25 to die of heart disease, I mean it's a tragedy, but it's also an anomaly, if you will. And you're seeing a lot of anomalies, which leads me into my next story. And this is from Yahoo News. And Yahoo News is a fucking bunch of bullshit. This is a not a bunch of bullshit, but when Yahoo News has am I still sharing the screen? Let me make sure. Hold on. But when Yahoo News has and this is a lot of people do bullshit journalism, or people stick their heads in the sands in other cases, even in the media. But when Yahoo News has a story like the one I'm about to read to you guys, that has a negative tinge to something that's against their agenda, I'll say, they'll share a story in that topic or in that vein, but they won't make an article themselves. They'll they will just forward or make an article about another article from like a more conservative source. So in this instance, the New York Post is a kind of conservative newspaper in New York. There's only two New York papers, like as far as the big ones in New York City, which is Daily News and New York Post. Daily News is a little bit more liberal tinged, and naturally, the fucking New York Post is more conservative tinged. But see, since this is a bad look, see hundreds more New York City teachers, aides fired for not complying with vaccine, and this is from September 18th. So this is not like, September 18th, 2022. So we're not talking last year. We're talking this year. I mean, yesterday, if you guys didn't catch the interview with Joe Biden, he actually said that the pandemic is over. So, I mean, why during a pandemic that's over are teachers getting fired? But let me read. The New York City Department of Education has fired another 850 teachers and classroom aides for failing to comply with the COVID-19, according to the New York Post. See, because Yahoo News couldn't make an article about this story or look it up themselves to see if that many teachers were fired. They had to forward an article from somebody else to kind of like absolve themselves from actually reporting on their own. Get it? But the latest firing brings the total to nearly 2,000 school employees fired for failing to comply with the education workers' mandate imposed by former New York City Mayor Bill de Blasio in 2021. Mayor Bill de Blasio is a piece of shit. So is his wife. This guy, fucking Mayor Adams, is just as big of a piece of shit. Well, he's a lot, I'm not going to say a lot dumber. They're both dumb, though. De Blasio is a dumb dude. I know people that know de Blasio personally, and they'll tell you that he's a really dumb dude and a piece of shit. Bill de Blasio got his political buttons in Park Slope by yuppies. But let me continue. And I quote, about 1,300 DOE employees, Department of Education, who took a year's unpaid leave with benefits, agreed to show proof of by September 5th of this year, or be deemed to have voluntarily resigned, in quotes. Of those staffers, 450 got a shot by the deadline and are returning to their prior schools or work locations, DOE officials told the Post. They include some 225 teachers and 135 paraprofessionals, the New York Post reported. See, but they're not talking about the assholes that are getting fired. Like, who gives a fuck of those 450 got a shot by the deadline? Like, we want to talk about the dudes that are fucking sitting at home because you fired them, DOE official. But back in February, New York City fired more than 1,000 workers who failed to comply with the city's COVID-19. The mayor's office said. I'm assuming there's a quote from Mayor Adams, so I'll do it in his voice. City workers served on the front lines during the pandemic and by getting vaccinated. Like, I hate the way this dude talks. He talks like they pretty much handed this dude the mayor CEO, whatever the fuck you want to call it, of New York at a time when New York's at its worst. And they did that shit with David Dinkins too. When New York was at its worst, was when we got our first black mayor of New York. And David Dinkins was just basically an empty suit. He was older at the time that they gave him the position of mayor of New York. But New York was at the tail end of the crack era. So, I mean, it was basically one term, no matter what. Like, fucking, you can't do good no matter what the conditions of this job. And Mayor Adams, Eric Adams of New York City, our current mayor, who I've met too, piece of shit. He's also in the same predicament, and I don't feel bad for him. I mean, like, fucking, because he's an asshole. Anyway, city workers served in the front lines during the pandemic, and by getting vaccinated, they are once again showing how they are willing to do the right thing and protect themselves and all New Yorkers. Mayor Eric Adams said in a statement, "Our goal was always to vaccinate, not to terminate. Yet you're terminating now." And city workers stepped up and met the goal placed before them. And you're not mentioning the dudes that you're firing, though. Like, so that's one of the things that's frustrating with the media now, I mean, like they'll it's basically a lot of well, we're talking about this now, or if you try to talk to them about certain things, they will divert on you in the quickness and like bring up some other shit that has nothing to do with what you're talking about. Political people do this like today, like fucking, oh, it's the Republicans. Like, no, motherfucker, they all do it. They all do it, bro. Like fucking you know what I'm saying? Like but where they basically act like you have the memory of a fucking bee or some shit, and you're not gonna remember some shit that happened last year. You know what I'm saying? And that's what's happening now with this fucking with these teachers. I mean, like I actually know a teacher um that was putting it off, and she actually played herself and did it. I mean, she ain't want to do it. I mean, like she ain't want to do it. As far as city workers, I don't know a lot of city workers no more in New York that were racing against this. And honestly, a lot of people, like I'm talking to like you from the time that this stuff first started getting rolled out. When that first started getting rolled out, I mean, there weren't many people that I could talk to and like tell them my like suspicions about the whole like mandate and all that shit. I mean, like and I'm talking about like from the perspective of somebody who works in New York. There were a couple people here and there. I mean, at that time too, like at my JO, like they were fucking socially distancing, if you will, or doing it more. So you really couldn't. A lot of times there weren't like times where you could chop it up with people, like or where you didn't feel like you wanted to chop it up with people, or people you felt that people didn't want to chop it up, and just in a social distancing sense. But but I do remember talking to people that I do business with elsewhere outside of my job, that were kind of like on a deadline like that too, like were that had a reprehension apprehension when it came to this whole thing, as far as proving it to your job that you took the T, if you will. Um, I mean, and when you have proclamations that the pandemic is over, done on a public stage, like by the head, the HNIC, fucking on a 60 Minutes last night. I mean, he said himself, like the pandemic's over. But to have that, and then teachers getting fired pretty much the same week in New York. I mean, like you're probably talking about teachers that are quote unquote minorities. I mean, it's a travesty. I'm pretty sure that I don't know how many teachers that would, or how many schools that would cover, but it's a lot. I mean, like, and in my hood alone, like, I mean, like, my neighborhood, if I could guess, has more than 100,000 people living within it, give or take. As far as elementary schools go in my neighborhood, we have 4. And, you know, my neighborhood is not that small either. We have 4 elementary schools. If of those 4 elementary schools, 15 or 10 teachers had to go, like, of course, it's going to make an impact. Like, that's 2 vacancies you got to fill in each school, at least. That's 2 teachers in each of those schools or more that you would have to, that you were anticipating coming back that aren't coming back. And they aren't coming back for what? For what reason? You know what I'm saying? Like fucking for some stupidity, like fucking at this point, this is all stupid. Like the whole the COVID Karens or fucking wearing a mask outdoors. Like I live in fucking New York. I mean, I'm not gonna front. I'm not gonna front one bit. Like if I see people chilling, like in the corners and shit, like amongst their friends, they don't have masks. When I see people walking to and from, a lot of times, I'm not gonna front. Like you do see a lot of people in New York wearing masks, but I'm telling you from somebody who goes to New York every day, doesn't live there, and lived there my whole life before I moved, that New York has a lot of crazy motherfuckers in it. And New York, living in New York drives you fucking nuts. Like living in New York, all you see is bum motherfuckers, being reckless, cameras all over the place, fucking cops bothering you, everything's dirty. So just being in that environment, regardless, it has a tendency of driving you up the wall, or it has a tendency of you're seeing so much shit happening every day in New York, where a lot of times you don't even have time to think of this, that, or these particular things, like, oh, how am I getting played here? How, a lot of times, like if you're forced to comply, like you usually comply, especially like in New York, from what I've seen, because I mean everybody knew somebody who fucking passed because of the whole thing. One, two, the people that when it came to the whole mandate thing, the people that were debating it more, or like had apprehension to taking the T. I mean, it's just straight up fucking Black and Spanish people. So to me, it was a tragedy when Black and Spanish people who didn't want to take the T were forced into taking the T. And I'm pretty sure out of those 850 teachers that just got fired, I could pretty much bet my fucking left nut that half of them or more were probably Black or Hispanic. Now, who's gonna replace those teachers? It's gonna be motherfuckers that are fucking gentrifiers, or people that aren't from New York, people that aren't Black or Hispanic that are gonna be teaching Black and Spanish kids. People like fucking Mr. Powers, who died of a stroke at 25 in Philadelphia, the performer, quote unquote. These are the people that are going to replace those vacancies. Not to say that any of the teachers that I had in New York were shit anyway. All of them were terrible. But I would love to be a fly in the wall, like in the classroom today, because these kids are way more reckless than I ever was. And my classes at my school, especially my junior high school, was some of the most reckless shit you ever see in your life. Having said that, the teachers that I had like in my middle school, which is Dewey Junior High School on 40th Street and 4th Avenue in Brooklyn, those teachers, you got the sense that they loathed you, that they ain't like you. You got the sense that they ain't like Spanish people, like fucking you got the sense that they ain't like Black people. And that was what it is. But everybody in the, like, when I was in junior high school in Dewey, everybody would act reckless all the time. And the teachers were there basically to make sure you didn't leave class. Like, I mean, like a lot of times we would play fucking truth or dare fucking for like a half year in the class. Like fucking I remember my friend would do like acrobatic displays in one half of the back of the class, and the teacher would act like he was teaching like for like in September and October, and would give up in November and would just let us do what the fuck we wanted. Like that was like that in certain grades, even in elementary school. 3rd grade was like that. 5th grade was like that for me in elementary school. But all of junior high school, 6th, 7th, and 8th grade were like that, where it was just reckless ass students and teachers that fucking tuned out. Now, what do you think that these 850 teachers that stood until the end, I mean, at least they have some tenacity about them, in the sense that they it could have been a lot easier for them maybe to take the T and resume work, but they didn't. I mean, they have some oh fuck. Oh, good shit. Am I on? Okay. Yeah, but they didn't. Like they didn't. Why the fuck is my computer shutting off? But they didn't take the T. To me, as somebody who shows there's a lot of level of nobleness to that, I guess, or fucking resiliency, whatever the fuck have you, like where they were told, you either got to take the T or you'll no longer be working for the Department of Education. and they probably hoped upon hope that maybe they could retain their job, like because the pandemic is over, according to some. But no, they got thrown out into the street like fucking dogs. And you have a tenacious bunch of men and women who are teaching that are fucking now on the street. And who's gonna replace them? Fucking I'm saying COVID Karens in the sense that I encountered COVID Karens many times in New York. Cursed them out like fucking not so much now, but in the past. Like bitches online that say, oh, like tell somebody else, oh, he's not wearing a mask. Like I can't hear them. And I'll tell them like fucking mind yours, fucking but you know, this another group of people that's probably like within the vein of like the COVID Karen, like these interlopers or gentrifiers that are mostly white that teach these kids that come in from fucking other states like Michigan, Ohio, to live in New York, fucking because they saw Sex in the City in the 90s and then they want to drive up rents in New York and they find out that their shitty degrees for fucking God knows what in college can't net them a real job, so they go into teaching. When they go into teaching, your black son and your Spanish son are the first black or Spanish people that they run into probably ever. And when your black son or black daughter or Hispanic son and Hispanic daughter act up the way they normally do in junior high school, I mean, like these teachers don't give one fuck about them. They don't say, oh, well, fucking Diego probably has it rough because his parents, like, no, they probably think like fucking I love all Spanish people, I love all black people, but these motherfuckers in my class are the worst lines. Like fucking, like they won't mention no hate for the race in those little diatribes. They just make it seem like these particular ones are the worst ones. Like, no, motherfucker, these particular ones are the first ones as far as Spanish and black people you've probably ever encountered on a day-to-day. And they got your son in that school from September to fucking June by some fucking spineless idiot who took the job of a person who actually had a moral compass. These 850 vacancies that were left behind by stupid ass Eric Adams, by even bigger dumbass fucking Bill de Blasio, by the corrupt Department of Education in New York and worldwide. I mean, New York and nationwide. These are the people that are basically fucking bullying assholes into taking something they don't want to take. My body, my choice is only okay for a fucking Planned Parenthood in the hood. Planned Parenthood in the hood, which every hood got. My hood got one. 43rd Street and 3rd Avenue. Fucking that's okay. Then it's your body, your choice. But if it's for some fucking shit that you gotta take for something that's not even that serious, then you belong to the state. But let me know what you guys think. And still watch that show, fucking House of the Dragon. Like fucking, even though they got such shit going on, they got such shit going on in every show, almost every show. They cram it down your throat, fucking But at least this one's interesting. I mean, yeah, I am falling off like with TV in general, like fucking but I can't like fucking it's not that I have to watch TV, but I can't like not watch TV because some fucking assholes like want to pump an agenda, if you will. But let me know what you guys think. I leave you guys fucking damn, bro, I can't believe this fucking camera didn't work. But I leave you guys hoping you guys have a wonderful rest of your evening, as I will, hopefully. But with that, I'm out. Peace. Thank you for stopping into the Foul Playland with me too. Like, subscribe. That's the first time I asked. But please like, subscribe, share, if you will. But with that, I'm out. Peace.